Hi everyone, I'm Jinseo from KAIST. Today I'll be presenting our work titled Onions Got Puzzled on the challenges mitigating denial of service problems in Tor Onion services. This is a joint work with my colleague Hobin Kim and my advisor Kang. Let's get started. In the Tor anonymity system, there is a client, Tor network, and Onion service. The communication includes multiple layers of Tor relays, the Tor node, run by volunteers across the globe. And the client cannot know the IP address of the Onion service, and the Onion service also cannot know the IP address of the client. In other words, the anonymity of both clients and servers is preserved. And just a few more details about Onion services. First, the communication is made through a specific relay called roundable point. And to set up this roundable point, the client sends a request to the Onion service via introduction ports. If the Onion service receives this request, it connects to the roundable point, establishing an end-to-end connection or Tor circuit with the client. But the problem is that this protocol is inherently vulnerable to denial of service attacks. If an adversary sends many requests to the instruction points, they will eventually reach the Onion service, making the service create a lot of Tor sockets, which are quite costly to create. And as a result, this effectively denies the service. And this type of DOS attack is practical. In 2023, the Tor Project officially announced that a whole network-wide DOS campaign lasted 7 months. In response, the community had tried to deploy common DOS mitigation ideas, but they failed, unfortunately. Why? First, rate limiting, where you stop a client who is sending too much. Second, scrubbing, where you redirect all suspicious traffic to a powerful scrubbing service. Or over-provisioning, where you make many duplicates of Onion services. But because of Tor's strong anonymity requirements, none of them are trivially applicable. For example, how can you rate limit a client when you do not know its identity? So, when all such common DOS mitigations are not available, one old yet powerful idea returns: the proof of work, or POW puzzles. In 2023, the Tor project indeed has officially adopted the POW puzzles to mitigate the exact DOS attack or DOS problem we discussed. If the adversary launches the DOS attack against the Onion service issues the cryptographic puzzles to everyone. As a result, everyone solves the puzzle to create a Tor socket, and thus curving the incoming attack traffic. A good news is that these puzzle ideas works great. This is our test result, but due to the time limits, I'll just skip to the conclusion. POW puzzles handle the classic DOS attacks very well. Yet, in this paper, we present the OnionFlation attack that defeats this POW puzzle defense. With the OnionFlation, the adversary sends a very small attack volume, which can trick the Onion service into misbelieving that they are under serious DOS attack, and thus they significantly inflate the puzzle difficulty. When the puzzle difficulty is skyrocketed, everyone, including benign clients, must solve these very difficult puzzles, which results in significant delays in their waiting time. Through this attack, we have completely broken the only available DOS mitigation at the moment. We have tested our OnionFlation attack against the POW puzzle deployed in the current Tor Onion services. Here, the photo to the right the longer the client waiting time, which indicates worse performance. As we discussed, the POW puzzle mitigates the classic DOS attacks well, showing similar waiting time performance as the baseline. However, with the UnionFlation attack, the average waiting time significantly increased, and almost half of clients even experienced timeouts after waiting 90 seconds. That is, the UnionFlation attack significantly degrades the puzzle defense. And the halt of our OnionFlation attack is at the difficulty update algorithm of Tor's POW puzzle. That is, we exploit how Onion services set their puzzle difficulties. Currently, the difficulty update algorithm detects and measures the congestion, then adjusts the puzzle difficulty based on the measurement results. We illustrate the behavior of the current algorithm here. And importantly, this algorithm is designed to detect different symptoms of congestion, implementing the symptom-based congestion measurement. Here is one concrete example which we called last request ending symptom. At the end of each measurement period, Tor inspects whether there is any remaining request. And if so, it regards it as a symptom of congestion and increases the puzzle difficulty. This symptom of congestion can then be exploited quite easily by our end rush attack strategy. With our end rush strategy, during the 5 minutes of a measurement period, the depository just sends a few hundred requests only at the end of the period, which triggers the last request ending symptom. Therefore, the victim inflate its puzzle difficulty, and the client should spend a lot more time to solve the puzzle. We developed 3 more strategies for OnionFlation, which can be found in our paper. In addition to the problem of the symptom-based congestion measurement, there is yet another, perhaps more fundamental problem. Namely, the difficulty of data mechanism is very limited in practice. It is first extremely slow, updated only every 5 minutes. And it's because it cannot go faster. It uses the Tor infrastructure to update the difficulty, so frequent updates impose burden on the whole network. Second, it allows only global feedback, which means that everyone solves the puzzles of the same difficulty by default. And it's because there's no individual feedback channel. Again, all of these are due to the strong anonymity requirements of Tor. Then how can you mitigate the UnionFlation attack? We've just seen the problem of slow and global difficulty update, and it's hard to solve because it's a structural problem. So, we decide to tackle the symptom-based congestion measurement. In particular, instead of monitoring the queue only at the end of each period, we take a more holistic approach and measure the overall status of the queue throughout the whole period. So we try to design a holistic queue measurement and detect the congestion better. But it turns out that it's not that simple because of the trade-off we discovered, which is written in this theorem. No difficulty calculation algorithm can be simultaneously resistant to both congestion and inflation attacks, which means that you should choose the resistant to congestion on the left-hand side or the resistant to inflation on the right-hand side, not both. And it also turns out that the current POW puzzle is leaning toward to the left-hand side, and that's why it was vulnerable to UnionFlation attack. So, we decide to have a single security parameter that allows us to control in between 2 properties, resistant to congestion and resistant to inflation. Then we found a sweet spot that nicely balances these two. Our mitigation, with the proper security parameter tuned, handles the uninflation attack well, and it also defends against the classic DOS attacks with moderate delays of a few seconds. This shows that our mitigation is robust against both uninflation and classic DOS attacks. And it's also dynamically adjustable against different attacks. And here are the takeaways. First, OnionFlation breaks the only practically available DOS mitigation in Tor Onion services today. But by introducing a tunable difficulty update algorithm, we could mitigate the OnionFlation attack as well as classic DOS attacks. Last, we believe that designing alternative DOS defenses, such as rate limiting or overflow reasoning, that are compatible with the strong anonymity requirements would be desired as future work. Okay, if you have any questions, please feel free to send an email to me. Thank you.